Hello, Mighty Warriors. Good morning. This is Alicia, and today I am going to talk to you about what I learned this weekend about how and why we are to endure trial. Um, you know, the Lord kept telling me that I was in need of endurance, And I kept asking him, like, why am I in need of more? I mean, I feel like I've been suffering in different ways, like my entire life. But this weekend, the pastor spoke on this, and it was illuminating. It was eye-opening, and I'm going to share it with you because I think it will help you guys understand why God puts us through the things that he puts us through. Some unbearable pain and suffering sometimes. I mean, of course, it's nothing like what he had to deal with. But I want to share it with you guys so it can kind of open your eyes and clarify some things like it did for me. So, I am a regular attendee of Abundant Life Church in Missouri. And Pastor Phil of Abundant Life, he likes to go on hikes to keep himself in shape. And actually, after he explained why he does it, I was like, oh, that makes sense. It gives him a goal. And that in the midst of that goal forces him to stay in shape, as we all should have a goal. And so he explained that he was taking a big trip to climb a mountain in Montana, and I believe it's Glacier Bay Mountain. Glacier National Park. Yeah, Glacier Bay National Park in is it in Montana? Let's see, which one's in Montana? I think it's just Glacier National Park. Beautiful. But before, he was to embark on this enormous task, he wanted to, he's been training for this. And so the person who is training him, who happens to be a friend of his, I guess suggested that they should go try another mountain, like a smaller mountain first to see, how they do. It's like not necessarily a starter mountain, but kind of give them an idea of what they're in for, right? And he explained that during this hike, he thought that he was ready. He thought that he was in shape. He thought that he had been training and he was up to this task. But he showed that partway up the mountain, he was crying. And if grown men crying, it's a big deal. But he was crying because he was not ready. He was not enduring. He did not have what it took. And he said that the only reason why he made it was because he would rather die than not make it. And he was in a lot of pain, and he was devastated. Because, as you know, when you think you're ready for something, when you think that you've prepared, when you think that you've got what it takes, and then you get someplace and you realize you do not have what it takes, that you do not have the endurance, that you are losing grip, and you find yourself crumbling at the monumental weight of it all, how devastating that can be. And I really felt his devastation in telling this story, because I think we've all been somewhere where we feel like we have what it takes. We feel like we're ready. We feel like, God has given us this gift, and it is for us and we're ready for it, and then we get there and we realize, no, I'm not ready for this. This is not what I expected. I don't have the endurance for it, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so when he was explaining just how agonizing this mountain was, and this was the starter, we're going to call it the starter mountain, he likened it to how, the Lord knows what's coming in our lives. And we don't always know what to expect. Maybe the trials in our life might last, a brief period of time, but maybe not. Maybe they will last until we die. Maybe we will have to endure that kind of suffering, or some kind of suffering, until, we go into the next world, But if we trust our Father, who is our trainer, we must understand that he's putting us through these tough seasons and all of this painful training because he wants to make sure that we can endure what we may not know is coming. What he sees coming is that 57-mile hike up Glacier Bay National Park or Glacier National Park in Montana. He sees it, right? And a lot of times in life, we don't have the luxury of seeing what's coming. He knows, but we don't know. And so when he's putting us through all of these things, he's trying to build endurance so that when we do hit that mountain, we can not throw in the towel. We can not give up. We can survive it and not crumble and find ourselves allowing the enemy to win. Because really what the enemy wants to do, and this is all from his sermon, so I want to make sure I give him credit for it. But what he wants us to do is, he knows that if he can weigh us down with worries, and he used an illustration of a backpacker who's got a lot of weight in his pack, right? And when you have all this burden, and this also reminds me of Pilgrim's Promise. I don't know if you guys have read that or seen that movie, but if not, you should watch Pilgrim's Promise. But there's this weight that we're carrying, and not all of it is necessary, but the enemy will try to pile on worries and stressors and all types of weight, family problems, to keep you so burdened that if sin doesn't cast you out of the hike, because sin basically takes you out of the race, right? If he can't get you to sin, if he can't get you to fall out that way, then he'll try to weigh you down with other ways, with burdens, with debts, with family problems, until you just want to give up and stop and quit. And if you quit, he wins. But we are not in a race against other people. So keep this in mind. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It matters that you finish. And if you can lay aside weight that the enemy is piling onto you, then we should lay it aside so that we can finish without all the burden. Of course, the obvious is, if he can make you sin, that's going to shut down your walk, right? And I don't just mean, sexual sin, and I mean like relational sin, bitterness, anger, all of these things can knock you out. Unforgiveness, okay? Because, the Lord is very clear. He wants us to forgive others as he's forgiven us. And it's interesting because I do feel like the Lord is making me a new creation, because I'm starting to look at people differently. And this is as recent as like last night. I was thinking about what he said about loving your neighbor as he loved us. And how does he love us? He loves us by giving us grace and mercy and forgiveness when we don't know the things that we are doing. And so it was weird because I went to the grocery store the other day, and it was a spiritual attack. I knew it, because for some reason, the same moment that I happened to be at the grocery store, it was like all these people from the peripheral of my life, who I don't tend to like very much, were all there at the grocery store. And I found myself getting annoyed because I was just there to get something, and my mood was being altered, because of this. And then I realized that these people don't realize their effect on me. They may not even care. They may not know. But I, in many ways, have had this negative effects on my Lord by the things that I've done, sinning against him, offending him, doing things that I ought not do, saying things, behaving in ways that I ought not do, behaving in ways that would hurt his feelings or that would disappoint him, right? Or that would challenge his authority. And I have to realize that when people are behaving that way towards me, I have to immediately reset my brain and be like, okay, I'm going to give this person grace, because I know that I've done something to Jesus that has upset him in this way, or that has challenged his authority, or has offended him. So I'm going to give this person grace. I'm going to give this person mercy, because they're my neighbor, and I want to love them as he has loved me. I want to give them the same grace and mercy that he has given me. And, everything from just neighbors, competitive neighbors. It's one of my biggest pet peeves is, the keeping up with the Joneses thing, where people feel like just because they live next to you, they have to compete. And I'm not trying to compete. I'm not a competitive individual. I'm just trying to do what the Lord has brought me here to do, right? And finish my race and finish my mission. But sometimes you encounter people and their point of view is competition or ambition or this and that. And a lot of times it ruins my day, because I'm not coming from that place, and I don't like to feel like I'm being treated in that way. Sometimes I just want a friend. I just want to talk. I just want to be kind. Why does everything have to, kind of devolve into a competition? But I've learned that I just have to say, you know what? I'm pretty certain that in my life I was behaving this way, and it upset the Lord. And I'm going to give this person grace. I'm going to give this person mercy as he gave me, right? Because it took me time to understand. It took me a lot of time to understand what his requests and desires were for me. I wasn't always who I am. I've changed, and not everybody has hit that point yet, that point of transformation. And so I try to give people grace and mercy, because I realized before, when I was not at the point of transformation, how wrong I was and regretful. I remember when I was in college, my whole point of view about life and relationships was completely different, right? The things that I would talk about with my friends and with my acquaintances was completely different. I would never give them the same advice now that I did then, right? But God had to give me grace and mercy for who I was then. And so I have to give people grace and mercy for who they are before they have the opportunity or make the choice to transform into what God wants them to be. So, the main point of his sermon is that the suffering that we're doing now is to prepare us so that we can endure for what we cannot see. And if we trust God as our trainer, we have to understand that whatever he's putting us through, no matter how hard, heartbreaking, how devastating, how deep the suffering, how painful, that he's taking us through it because he sees something that we can't see coming toward us. And he wants to make sure that we finish the race, that we make it to the summit. And if we trust that he is for us, okay, and that's a big thing, because a lot of times when we're suffering, we start to think that he is not for us, that he does not love us to be taking us through this thing. But you know, when you are, and another analogy he used, when you're playing in a game, when you're playing sports, your coach is coaching you to win. And a lot of the stuff he puts you through in order to get to that point is painful. It is awful. It is gut-wrenching. It is making you run until you want to puke, as he said. But he's doing it for your own good. He's doing it to train you so that you can get the prize. Okay? Another thing that he said that I thought was really important, as someone who is currently enduring a lot, is that though we set our sight on what's coming after, right? The prize, which is eternal life. Sometimes when the suffering is so bad, you just have to focus one step at a time. Don't look too far ahead. Just one step at a time. Because thinking too far ahead, you know, you might not be able to, you know, everything might just look too far off for it to really give you the support you need to keep going. So instead, just one step at a time. One step at a time. And then maybe once you look up, you're closer than you expected. You're right? So, dear friends, we're enduring because he knows what's coming. And we need to be ready for it. So stay strong. Don't give up. Just keep walking one step at a time. And you'll make it. We'll make it. Don't let the devil win. Don't let him pile burdens on you. Put those burdens down. Figure out what you can lay down and put it down. Okay? Until next time, signing off.